Case File T4123. A town emergency siren starts announcing houses in second person before they vanish. The Twilight Registry opened the file after Sheriff Mara Voss sent a photograph with no message attached. The photograph showed a kitchen threshold in a farmhouse on County Road 9. In the reflection, behind a woman washing dishes, a black heifer stood in tall grass under a moonless sky. The woman was alone in her kitchen. The pasture behind the house was empty. The cow in the threshold wore a yellow ear tag stamped with tomorrow's date. By morning, the animal was found exactly where the threshold had placed it. It had been dead for 2 winters. Its bones had been buried behind the feed shed after a sickness took half the herd. Yet it stood in wet grass, breathing fog through a mouth packed with soil, and every window in the farmhouse reflected it, as if the glass remembered a different world. Witness Statement 1 belongs to Jonah Pell, age 14. He said his mother covered the thresholds with towels after breakfast. The towels darkened from the inside. Something pressed against them, slowly, shaping cloth into a long, blunt head. Jonah heard chewing from every covered frame. Not chewing food, chewing through distance. The registry's first field team arrived at 6:12 p.m. Their body cameras show a narrow house washed in blue dusk, a line of salt at each doorway, and an impossible number of flies clinging to the curtains. The team lead, Agent Vale, asked Mrs. Pell when the reflections started changing. She answered, "After the church bell rang from underground." There had been no church in Mercy Hollow since 1978. It burned in a lightning storm and was never rebuilt. The bell was recovered from the ashes, cracked clean down its side, and placed in the county museum. On the recording, while Mrs. Pell speaks, a bell rings once beneath the floorboards. Every threshold in the house answers with a second ring. Evidence item A is a shaving threshold removed from the upstairs bathroom. When turned away from any face, it reflects a dirt road lined with people who are not in the room. They stand shoulder to shoulder, wet to the knees, all facing the same unseen thing. Several are identifiable as Mercy Hollow residents who died before the road was paved. One of them lifts a hand and writes backward on the glass, "Do not let us be counted again." The phrase meant nothing until Agent Vale found the ledger in the courthouse basement. In 1911, after a fever outbreak, the town clerk recorded the dead twice by accident. The same 37 names appear on 2 facing pages. The first list is in ink. The second list is in something brown that flakes when touched. Beside each repeated name is a livestock mark, as though people and cattle had been entered into the same inventory. That night, every resident with a repeated surname saw an animal in reflective surfaces, a drowned horse in a television screen, a piglet behind the eyes of a sleeping child, a rooster moving inside a spoon. The animals were not symbols. They had weight. They fogged the glass. They're waiting. Crochacall required evacuation. But Mercy Hollow's roads looped back on themselves after sunset. Deputy Lorne Mills drove north for 11 miles and returned from the south with mud on his tires that contained human hair. He said the road was lined with fence posts carved into teeth. He said he saw his grandmother standing in a drainage ditch, holding a calf that had his face. At 11:03 p.m., the county museum alarm triggered. The cracked church bell was found swinging inside its display case without a clapper. The sound was coming from under the town, from a depth survey later measured at -40 feet below any known structure. Each ring caused thresholds to brighten. Each ring brought the reflected animals closer. Agent Vale ordered all glass broken. The order saved 6 houses and doomed the 7th. At the Pell farm, Jonah refused to break the threshold in his sister's nursery because the baby was asleep beneath it. The threshold showed no nursery. It showed a field full of people kneeling with rope around their necks, and behind them, a black heifer counting them by touching each bowed head with its tongue. Mrs. Pell took the hammer from her son. The recovered audio has 3 sounds: glass shattering, a baby laughing, and a bell ringing from inside the baby's chest. When the field team entered the nursery, the room was empty, except for soil on the crib mattress and 37 hoof prints on the ceiling. The baby monitor played a voice that was not a child and not an adult. It said, "One was missed." Then it began reciting names from the 1911 ledger, including names that had never appeared on any public record. The final anomaly occurred at dawn. All remaining thresholds in Mercy Hollow went black. Not dark, black, as if painted from behind. When registry technicians removed them from walls, each threshold was heavier than before. X-rays showed dense organic forms inside the glass. Folded limbs, teeth, wedding rings, ear tags, pages from a ledger, and a bell clapper made from a human spine. The affected district was sealed under agricultural quarantine. The official explanation cites prion contamination. No cattle have been permitted within 12 miles of the old church site. No thresholds are sold in county stores. Residents groom themselves by touch. Unresolved final note. On the anniversary of the duplicate ledger entry, registry servers received an automatic upload from Agent Vale's body camera. Agent Vale has been missing since the nursery incident. The footage is 12 seconds long. It shows a threshold propped in a field at night. In it, Agent Vale stands among the counted dead, holding the missing baby, both of them alive enough to blink. Behind them, the heifer raises its head and looks directly into the lens. The file ends because the camera operator begins to chew glass.